about liars, frauds, thieves, and bullshitters. I am your host, Pat Soroyce. We are a bi-monthly podcast, and we release 2 episodes every month. And if you haven't already, go ahead and give us a like and a 5-star review. That helps to get the word out. And if you like what you hear, we release 2 more episodes every month on our Patreon. You can check us out there at patreon.com/lie, cheat, and steal. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. You can come find us there. That out the way, I am here with my co-host, as always, Kath Barbadoro. How you doing?
Hi, Pat. I'm good. I'm drinking a delicious mango LaCroix today. Little
Ooh, that's
can
an
check.
OG. That's an OG LaCroix flavor. I love a good mango LaCroix.
It's good stuff. I've been
Yeah,
I've been switching. I used to be all about the Spindrift lemon,
yeah.
uh, but it's a little acidic. I feel like it's bad for my teeth. It's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
too much acid.
Yeah.
So I've heard seltzer's not really good for your teeth either, but I feel like maybe a little less lemon juice probably better
Yeah.
for the old
Uh,
system. So
I
what are you
still
drinking
drink.
today?
I'm drinking a 16-ounce Lone Star Tall Boy.
Delightful. A
Yeah, that's
classic.
yeah. There is if there is a drink that I have a spiritual connection with, it's specifically the Tall Boy of Lone Star cans. Yeah, I bought those. I bought those, and I went to the Renaissance Fair the other day, and that was when I woke up the next
I
day.
feel like everyone I'm friends with in Austin was at the Renaissance Fair the other day.
Yeah, we went as
I
like a
saw
big
so
like
many great Instagram pictures. I was very jealous.
yeah, we went as a big group, and and again, I'm trying to be off the road and like focus like more on being in the city. And as a result of traveling all the time, you don't get to go do cool shit as a group like that. You're always, I
Yeah.
always, I always seem to miss that shit because I'm always on the road. So we went, and it was our friends Avery Moore and Joey Zimmerman, and then their delightful spouses Jackson and Shelby. And I brought Sid with me, and Mike Wiebe, who was on the show just recently about the Bang episode. He was there with his girlfriend, or his wife rather. I'm sorry, I apologize. But it was such a cool outing, and I got like hammered. It was like fun. It was like a problem. Like everything was good, but like by the end of the day, Sid wasn't drinking. We got in her Jeep, and I probably made it like 5 minutes out of the highway, and she's like, "You can just go to sleep." I was like, "Thank God, I was out."
You
And
just
so,
reminded me of my friend Alex Patak, who is another
oh yeah, I'm
very
friends with
funny
that.
comedian podcaster. He for his bachelor party, they went to the Renaissance Fair. And he was cut off because he wouldn't stop talking like a Renaissance Fair king to the bartender. And they were like, "You can't drink anymore. You are too drunk."
Oh, damn, that's yeah. You were too nerdy for the Ren Fair. They were like, "Hey,
Yeah.
buddy, you have to go."
Yeah. You just kept calling everyone squire and they were like, "You are too drunk. You
Yeah.
can't be doing this."
The Ren Fair is such a wild place because there's like there's like the whole gamut. Obviously, it's definitely a place where like you let your freak flag fly. At the Ren
Sure.
Fair, there's a lot of like very like gender fluid people. There's a lot of like that segment of the scene, but there's also like the guy at the Arrow shop who like might be part of the Aryan Nation.
Yeah, yeah. It's a real mix. It's a
You get
real
a
lot
mix.
of different weird subcultures coming together
Very much
from
so. One
across
of
the
the dumb
political spectrum.
Yeah, one of my dumb drunk lines I kept saying all day. I was like, "This strange land hath many genders."
Very true.
Yeah, the other fun move was also if I give anybody a word of advice, uh, if you're gonna meet up with friends, have them drop a pin or a location because you don't want to ask anybody directions to anything because you don't know if it's gonna spiral out into like a thing where
Yeah.
it's like,
You
"Hey,
might be part
where's
of a bit.
where's the tavern thing?" And they're like, "Oh, where doth the traveler want to go?" And you're like, "I just need directions, man.
I'm
I'm
just trying to
not."
find my friend, man.
Yeah, I just got here. Catch me in fucking 5 horns of mead, and I might be down for this.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a fun outing and a good day all around. How are things on your end?
Things are good. I'm when this comes out, I will be in Mexico City, which I'm very excited about.
That's so tight.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. I'm going for a week. I have a bunch of really fun stuff planned. I'm gonna eat so many street tacos. I can't fucking wait.
The Mexican army was gonna like deport you back to like USA, get your girl. She is over here eating too many street tacos.
It's gonna be wild. I'll keep
Yeah,
a count. It's gonna be insane.
that's so
Speaking
tight.
of speaking of other countries, that's my segue today.
Ooh, here we
How does
go.
that sound?
Went
Um,
bad. No,
boo.
talking about America, man. Things going on here.
This is a story. This story comes to us from abroad, also from a country that I have traveled to.
Ooh, right.
This is a story from India.
Nice.
Yeah, not the part of India I was in. So, and there's a lot of like very Indian stuff in here that I like probably don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
So, just to warn you.
Buckle up, baby. I love how like India is like it's an entire like literal subcontinent. And like my dumb ass, if I went to, I don't know, Hyderabad and I had a friend in New Delhi, I would be like, "Hey, I'm in India," and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm in another part of the country." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I would.
My
It's still
my
give it a
like
shot though.
biggest problem with like dealing with any this came up in the cricket episode too. It came up all the time when I was living in India. I studied abroad in India in college for a couple months. So I lived in Tamil Nadu, and this was a problem. Then this was a problem doing this story. They use a particular counting system, particularly for money, that they use the words lakh and crore, and a lakh is 100,000 and crore is 10 million, I think. But they will use them all the time, like in
Yeah,
like news articles and stuff with no um they don't print the equivalency because everybody in India just knows what those mean.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they drive me crazy because I'm like, don't make me do math. I don't
yeah.
like inherently know how much a lakh is. And then
Yeah,
sometimes if they're talking about like a lot of money, they'll be like 25 lakh crore. And I'm like, I can't figure this out.
yeah.
I'm just never gonna know how much money
Is,
that is.
is that just like a result of having like a currency that like I don't know the value of like the Indian currency, but if it gets really high, it's like a standard household item might cost like 15,000 rupees or whatever. Is
I
that like a
think
result
that's
of them having to say like astronomical numbers on a daily basis?
I think that's part of it. I'm not sure how that system developed, but it is, and I also am not quite sure if those words only refer to money or not. But that would be my guess, because yeah, rupees are, um, I want to say they're like half a cent or something. They're pretty,
Yeah,
they're like yeah, a high number of them is needed, and that
yeah.
also will come up in this story. This story spans a couple decades, so I'm going to be telling you about a semi-mythical, prolific Indian con artist who goes by the name Natwarlal. Have you heard of Natwarlal?
No, I have not.
Um,
A semi mythical Indian Connors. I love that.
yeah, he's so like he's basically like kind of a Robin Hood figure. But he's like modern. Like he died.
Yeah,
Well, so much of his life is sort of he's sort of like a Frank Abagnale. Like it's hard to tell what's real and what's not real.
yeah.
Um, but he died. So the reason I'm prefacing this is because they're not quite sure when he died. He either died in 1996 or 2009. So this
Cool.
is not
That's a spread right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So this is not someone from very long ago, I guess is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. This is like a modern guy, but he still has all of these kind of myths and tall tales around him. He's like a folk
Anywhere
hero.
between Space Jam and Inception. He could, like
Mhm.
that's a pretty
Exactly.
wide berth. Yeah,
It's a wide
I like
golf.
that.
So Natwarlal was born in Bangra in Bihar. So basically, he was born in like the northwestern part of India. Um, Natwarlal is not his given name. His given name is Mithilesh Kumar Srivastava. We'll
I can
talk
see why he
about
changed it. They both sound cool as shit.
Honestly, Netwarlal is really hard for me to pronounce. It's like a
Yeah,
lot of Netwarlal. It's a lot of like mouth movements.
yeah. That's like if you're playing guitar, where it's like you got not
It's
only
kind
is
of
like
all
the chord
over.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all over the place. When I used to work at AT&T, we'd have Indian customers. I would make it a point. I would take 1 second to look at their name before I said it, and then I would like, and I'm pretty good with like like syllables and shit like that.
Hmm.
And whenever you would nail it, man, like the look of like they'd be doing the thing like, oh yeah, this is not gonna hit a shot, and they'd be like. They would just kind of give you the look like, and it's like, oh, that doesn't happen very often. And like I would always notice in a sales environment, if you take that 1 second, learn it, and actually give it a go, and then you nail it, like that helped out so much.
As someone with a last name that often trips people up, I always appreciate it, and I also feel some kinship with like the Subramanians of the world in
Yeah.
that my name and like most Indian names that are like that, they're really self-explanatory how to pronounce. They're just long and they freak people out. Like
Yeah.
it's not like there's a lot of silent letters in there. It's just that
It's
they're just a lot of letters. And so
Yeah,
people
it's
are like,
all there. That's kind
whoa.
of the intimidating part. Yeah, you're like, oh, all of you guys showed up and you're all pulling your weight. That's crazy. Well, yeah, like you have like a long tricky name. I have like a short tricky name.
Right.
And then
Yours is tricky in the opposite way, where
yeah,
it's like this
yeah,
could be pronounced in a bunch of different
yeah.
ways.
I got little sneaky letters. They're just running around like what are you guys up to? You know?
But anyway, so this guy, he's from I think Bihar is in like West Bengal, kind of like western, northwestern India. So, or sorry, I keep saying western, I mean eastern. He's from northeastern India.
Okay.
Um, so his father was a railroad station master. He grew up like fairly like middle class, maybe upper middle class. Um, this was in, I think he was born in like the 30s. Like he lived, no matter when he died, he lived a very long time.
Yeah.
So he discovered pretty early on that he was very talented at forgery. He would be sent as like a young man. His neighbor would send him to deposit stuff in the bank, and he realized that he could change what was on there and mimic the guy's
Oh yeah.
signature. And he ended up stealing about 1,000 rupees from this guy, which back in the 30s was a lot
Yeah.
more money.
It's generational seed wealth.
And that was kind of the beginning of his career. He got 1,000 rupees from this guy, and then he just dipped to Calcutta. He was like, "Bye, see you later." And by the time the neighbor had figured out what had happened, he was long gone.
Yeah.
So
I
he
feel like
goes.
you gotta get a move on early in India because the trains are so crowded. Like
That's
if you're trying
true,
to like
and they're slow.
if you're trying to get away from somebody, I feel like yeah, you gotta get up pretty early that morning because it
Mm.
just seems packed.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he was a student for a while in Calcutta. He worked as a stockbroker. He had a cloth business. All of this stuff will kind of, a lot of these things from his life will come up later in his scams. The fact that his dad was a station master on the railroad, a lot of his scams involve taking things from trains.
Oh
The
yeah.
cloth business, he had some textile stuff that we'll talk about. He kind of really brought a lot of these things into his scam life.
Go with what you
So
know, man. I appreciate that. You know, don't stay in your lane. You know what you know what you know. You know how to work that.
yeah, and it worked out well for him, as we'll see. So the first time he was caught, which I believe was in the 40s, maybe in the late 30s even, so he might be even older than I'm thinking. He was first caught in Calcutta when he used his ability to forge to basically commandeer and then resell 9 tons of iron that had belonged to the government. So he basically, another thing he was very good at is impersonation. Like he would pretend to be somebody else. Again, sort of Frank
Oh man.
Abagnale stuff.
That is such like when people we do covered stories where people do that, but like that's such a talent and a skill because like you have to like that's such a bold move. It's like most time like you just like you go into that assuming it's gonna fail. Like you would imagine if
Right.
somebody came up to you pretending to be somebody else, you'd be like I would see right through that. It's such a very little room for error, but
Yeah.
when it works out, it's just like the results are huge.
You have to have this like reserve of internal confidence that like I can't
Yeah,
even really imagine.
yeah.
But yeah, so he posed as a government official using forged documents. He got a hold of this 9 tons of iron, and then he sold it. They caught him for that. He then so he did serve some prison time for that. We're gonna talk about, so all told, he ends up being charged throughout the course of his career as a criminal. He's sentenced to over 113 years cumulatively, but he only ever serves 20 years. Spoiler alert, it's because he loves to escape from jail, which we will get
Ah, hell yeah.
into. um,
Again, another one of those things where it's like that takes an amount of like, like internal confidence where you're just like, because once you make that first move, okay, now I'm out of my cell,
yep.
everything has to go right. This guy is daring, he is bold, and you know what? I like him.
Here, this is the one thing that he does, which is what he does next after he gets out of jail for the iron, that I feel like does go against his sort of Robin Hood mythos. Um, he starts doing this scam where he poses as like a John and hires prostitutes, and then he drugs the prostitutes and steals their money. And
Oh
yeah, so
man.
it's like you're not really stealing from the rich and giving to
Yeah,
the poor
yeah.
at that point. Like,
I feel like that was like I thank you for getting that milkshake duck out of the way now.
yeah.
I was just like, man, boy, howdy, this guy seems real swell. And you're like, oh yeah, he also drugs women and steals their money. I'm like, oh, well,
He so like he didn't kill anybody, so
yeah,
that's good. It doesn't seem like there was any sexual motive, so that's
yeah.
good. But still, not
Oh,
great. Don't
yeah,
love
not
it.
great, not great. Also, I mean, I would say that there is like it's not uncommon for the reversal to happen. Like sex workers,
Sure.
drug men, that happens. So maybe it happened to him, and he's like, fuck it, all bets are off. Like
Yeah, it's possible.
I'm coming for you, hoes, literally.
But he did move on from this pretty quickly. He decided it was too dangerous and he stopped doing this, and he kind of went back into more straightforward theft and heists and stuff. And
Yeah,
he started small, but he would basically do what he did with the iron. He would go into the railway freight office, see what was there, and then he would make up fake paperwork and checks for the stuff that he saw in the office. So he'd sort of case the joint, and then instead of just stealing it, he would do the paperwork that said it was his.
yeah.
Um,
Fuck, man, that's so cool.
so there's a list of stuff that he stole that's like very funny to me. He stole a harmonium. So it's I believe that's a musical instrument.
Sounds like it.
It
If it was
seems very
if
like
it was anything else, I'd
1940s.
be shocked. Like,
Yeah.
if that was some other type of device.
It's like a little organ, like a
Okay.
little keyboard. So he stole a harmonium, he stole a Benz engine, and a box of screws worth 1,000 rupees.
Wow.
So just
Yeah.
like little odds and ends, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like certain items get like glamour. Like like you watch Pawn Stars. They're bringing in,
Sure.
oh, I got this cannon, I got this sword, but it's like you go to an actual pawn shop and it's just like it's like little day to day items that have value. It's TVs, it's fucking PS2s. You
Right.
can yeah. It's not all gonna be glamorous. You know what I'm saying? You're stealing boxes. Sometimes you steal a box of screws. That's what you gotta do.
Well, he was, I mean, and I think this, what I'm going to tell you next, sort of speaks to what you're saying, that he was really an opportunist at heart, because there was a big textile shortage in the 40s in India. There was a big shortage of cotton, basically. Um, so what he would do is he posed as a purchase officer to the textile commissioner in Bombay. Again, this is some very Indian, I don't know what a
Yeah,
textile commissioner is, but basically what I'm imagining is this stuff, because there was such a shortage, was really tightly regulated
yeah,
because it
that
was so
that
in
makes sense.
demand. Um, and this is
It's
how
like
he,
the Indian cabinet. It's like Secretary of Textiles, like Secretary of Non. It's
yeah.
like they have very very strange departments in the government.
But yeah, so he acted again like a government official. Um, and he was working with an associate at the time who was a guy from Gujarat who was named Natwarlal. So this is pre him getting this name. He's working with the real Natwarlal. And they would go to textile manufacturers who were really looking for cotton and be like, hey, we got some cotton coming in. What's up? You know?
Yeah.
So basically posing not only as an official, but as a corrupt government official who is going to
Oh,
help
I
them
love
out.
the double fold back. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not just gonna pose I'm posing as a corrupt official. That's what when people have a mind for this shit where you're just like, dude, this is the field you belong in, whether it's for the worse or for the like that's like what a cool world building, I guess you can say.
Well, that's like, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like one of the like fundamental ways to sort of con somebody is you make them feel like they're getting the opportunity, you know,
Yeah,
not that
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not that they're extending any kind of credit to you.
Yep.
They're like, I don't want to fuck this up, so I'm not going to ask too many questions, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So and again, so he'd pose as a government official. He would be like, "Yo, I got the hookup." He would then give them again these railway release certificates that he forged, and tell them like, "Hey, the cotton's going to come in at this train station. You can go get it." The people would take the false release certificates to the train station. There wouldn't be any cotton. You know, it's all fake.
Yeah.
Um, And then when this happened, unfortunately, even though these people were doing something illegal by trying to get this illicit cotton, they did go to the cops and they got caught. But what happened was uh, they caught our man, and they thought that he was Natwarlal. So the other guy escaped, and they only
Oh,
caught our guy, and they thought it
yeah.
was Natwarlal, so that name just stuck. He was like, "Yep, that's
Oh,
me," because I don't want you to know who I really am.
yeah.
Sure, I'm this guy from Gujarat.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's again like the opportunist thing. Like you're spinning plates. It's fucking jazz. You know, you're like,
Hmm.
okay, hold on. This is dropping my thing. They think I'm this guy. Better they think I'm this guy than they think I am who I am. So I'm just gonna
Right.
take it. I'm this dude now, and I have what one more little card in my pocket now. I
Exactly.
can
One
blend it.
more
Oh,
level
dude,
of deception that
yeah,
can protect me.
yeah.
Um,
Wow, this dude is incredible.
He's great. He's like really so they've made like a couple movies about him. They've made a TV show about him. Like he is well known in India. To the point where when I was researching this, there were a bunch of articles where like one politician in India was calling another one the Natwarlal of politics. And like so yeah, he is like known. I'm trying to think of like what an American equivalent would be. I Frank Abagnale is decent, but I
But
feel like there
he
might be
just got
something.
didn't Frank Abagnale. One thing we have to go back and look at. Didn't his whole shit just get debunked?
Yeah, yeah, which
Yeah.
we kind of talked about a little bit on our
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
but
you're right.
I
Like
think it
he may
got
have made
even
all this up.
further
Yeah,
destroyed. Like his story got really taken
yeah.
down.
Well, they got him where like, and this is how they got that Mike Warnke guy, the Christian pastor dude, is
Yeah.
you have this whole fucking life you made up. Well, you start comparing dates, and if you put a timeline together, it's like okay. So all of this happened in the 9 months when you dropped out of community college before you joined the army. And it's like
Right.
it's one of those things where I think he painted himself into a corner where some guy was like, hold on, the window of time this all had to happen in was like 2 years, and there's no
Right.
way, or whatever the case be. Yeah, that's how.
Yeah,
So
a
guys,
book just came out about
yeah,
how it's all fucking made
so
up.
guys, you're out there conducting a false narrative. You need to give your backstory 7 to 8 years to breathe.
Give it
Okay.
some room to breathe. Don't be
Yeah.
specific about dates.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like, I mean, Warhol had a documented criminal record, so he was really out here doing this stuff. So that like he gets this name in the 40s during while he's doing this cotton scam. Um, but then in the 50s and 60s, he is all over the country ripping people off. He is like a known
Yeah.
guy,
So
and he's
it's like Bill
everywhere.
Murray stories at this point, essentially, where it's just like, man, I was at a goddamn, I was buying that little powder, the colored powder we throw at each other, and then Warlow showed up. He did this. Like I bet, like it's just he just like comes up in folk tales. Some of it, as you said, semi mythical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how well known he was at this point, like in the 50s and 60s when this was happening, but this guy was like really prolific. Like they think he scammed like hundreds of people.
Nice.
Um so in the 50s and 60s, again, like the core of his scam seems to be that he will pretend to be some kind of government official and then have people do things for him based on that.
Yeah.
Either like extend him lines of credit or he'll say that he needs certain things for some politician that he works for or whatever, and there's very often some kind of paperwork forgery involved. So I feel like this guy is like designed to thrive in this particular scam in a country with a lot of bureaucracy, because his
Yeah.
whole scam is like, I am a faceless, nameless government employee who you've never heard of, and here is all my paperwork. And like
Yeah.
that works. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, but man, like that's a crazy, especially when he's like, yeah, the more like I don't know a lot about Indian government, but I can imagine, especially like post-war, that it was like, yeah, very like they had like a lot of bureaucracy. It's a huge country, and they had like all little places like little places you can hide. There's like this department has this guy, and there's not a lot of communication between those two. So much room for anonymity. It kind of just like it's asking to be taken advantage of.
yeah, and I think like at this time, like the country is like like it's sort of industrial framework is growing. Like there's
Yeah.
all of this growth and all of these people like kind of, yeah, like being put in charge of these different departments. There's also I think this, conning is kind of universal. I don't necessarily think I know enough about India to say that anything about this is inherently Indian, but I do think the core of this scam like works in a big, yeah, a big country with a big government with a lot
Yeah.
of different, offices and
And there's
stuff.
like a disparate, there's like an urban population and like a rural population. And as with
Hmm.
rural populations in places, sometimes they're a little less read, a little less literate, maybe a little less worldly. And it's like,
Yeah.
this feels like there's those two like conflicting like city India and country India. And
Hmm.
it feels like you can just kind of slip between those worlds. I would imagine easier as a government, or posing as a government employee.
Yeah, so like here's an example of one of his cons that he would do. So he dressed up very fancy, real nice business cash,
Yeah.
crisp white shirt, like Western style, fancy schmancy clothes. And he said he was a guy named D.N. Tiwari, who was the personal assistant to the Union Finance Minister, N.D. Tiwari. So he was like, I'm DN, not ND.
Yeah.
We're different. Um, and then he went to a watch dealer in New Delhi, and he said, "Look, the Congressional Parliamentary Party is having an important meeting tomorrow, and everybody's going to get a watch. So I'm here to get all the watches for our big ceremony." Uh, so the next day he comes back in a chauffeur-driven car. Again, the image is right. Like
Yeah.
he detail oriented. Like he makes sure everything passes the smell test. He comes back in a chauffeured car and he tells this shopkeeper, pack 93 watches and get an employee to come with me to this government building and we'll issue a bank draft for the watches, like, in exchange. So they do it. They drive to the bank and the guy, Natwarlal walks into the bank, walks out with an authentic looking bank draft for 32,829 rupees and takes the watches. Um, 2 days later, the bank is like, yeah, this is fake. This is a completely fake check. So
Oh.
this guy walked confidently into a bank and then
Yeah.
just pulled a fake bank note out of his pocket and then walked back into the car.
Yeah,
Just
man.
very funny.
Ooh. I wonder, like, that is an incredible story. I'm thinking about like how long does one wait? You know what I'm saying? It just I bet that's just like maybe I'm just like romanticizing this guy, but I feel like the stroke of a master. Where he's like, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna nope. Now I'm walking back outside.
Right,
And,
exactly.
and you like, what does it matter? And he's like, it all fucking matters, and it matters a lot. Like how many seconds I spend in here, and like, oh, I'm watching a genius at work. I love this guy.
So yeah, through the 50s and 60s, he was wanted in 7 different Indian states under over 30 aliases.
Hell
Um,
yeah. Good
one of
numbers,
his
baby. Those are good numbers.
he's
7
putting
states,
numbers
30
on the
different
board.
days. Yeah. The kid's gonna go pro.
One of his best known stings was kind of near his hometown in Bihar in the 50s. So he befriends this guy who works at the Punjab National Bank by pretending again to be a wealthy businessman. Like, and he makes sure everything looks right and feels right. He would then like so everything is sent like the train system in India, like a lot of stuff is being sent, cargo is being sent by train. So he would like get basically like freight note to send a bag of lentils or rice to Calcutta from Bihar where he lived. And then he would get the railway receipt and change it from 1 to 100 or 1,000 bags of
Oh,
lentils or
hell yeah.
rice. And then he would get advances from his friend at the bank on the price of 1,000 or 100 bags of rice or lentils. So he would just have one fucking bag of rice go into Calcutta and make all of this money from it. Make 100 times the value of that.
Yeah.
So he got up to through his friend at the Punjab National Bank. He amassed 650,000 rupees, and he didn't even get caught. He just was like, "That's enough." He closed the
Yeah.
account, took out all the money, and dipped, and just vanished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so, god damn it. That's incredible because it's like usually somebody messes up on one of the, like, either their execution is great, but they're greedy,
Yeah.
or or they've they've got like they're modest in what they do with that effect. It's like it seems like he just hits all the right notes. Like, I am team Nar. I'm
It's
team
hard to
this
say,
guy.
right?
Yeah. Team Naruto. I'm like 4 beers in. I'm like, all right, I love Narwhal.
So he's constantly getting put in jail and then escaping. And he'd say, as long as there is one corrupt police officer, no jail can hold me. He would just, yeah, he would just
Yes.
take people off or like charm them or,
Yeah.
he escaped from jail 9 or 10 times. As I said, he was charged with 113 years in jail. He only spent, they think, around 20 total, which is still quite a bit. But given that he lived to be at least in his mid 80s and he was wanted for like 50 years, that's not bad.
And I bet he knew how to make jail as tolerable as it can be. He seems resourceful,
Here's this, you're gonna love this one. This is a fun yarn. So he's in jail in 1957. They've caught him. He's in jail. So he has a uniform smuggled into his cell, sort of a classic way out,
It's like our homeboy Trevor Philip Morris guy. That
yes.
dude. I love Philip Morris. Yeah.
Philip Morris. Yeah. So Natwarlal gets this uniform smuggled into his cell. He gets the guards to open the door by giving them an attaché case filled with money. So he gets, he has his stuff brought in for him, to the ingredients in the recipe of this jailbreak brought in to
he's just making gumbo. I love just put a little seasoning in there. Oh, I love this dude's technique.
So he hands over an attaché case filled with money and he just pieces out in the uniform. He drives away with an accomplice who's parked outside. He just walks out. And literally, so many things could have gone wrong here. His car that he was getting away in broke down. And he was like, no problem. And he stops a hearse and they give him a ride. He just sweet talks his way into a hearse.
Yeah.
In a prison uniform.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Gee, that's like, how this is like the dumbest hearse driver. Like, you know what? Normally I don't do this, but I'm gonna go with my instincts on this one. I get in. Like,
and then, okay, so the final, the coup de grace here is, so he gets a ride into the town and he disappears. He's in the wind again. And then when the jailers open the attaché case, it's full of newspaper. He didn't give them a dime. He just
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like, like, what are you gonna do? What are you doing? He's like, oh, the guy gave me fake money. You can't say shit. You know what I'm saying? Like
you got bribed. Yeah,
you got bribed. That is so cool.
That's again like the advantages of posing as someone corrupt is like very helpful, or being someone corrupt in this case. But
it just gives you that added level of it. Also, it weeds people out because it's like, if somebody doesn't want to fuck with a corrupt politician, they're gonna avoid you. You know what I'm saying? They're like, or somebody who's like
they're gonna be harder to trick anyway. Like somebody who's
you're just putting out a honeypot. You're like, hey, where are all my corrupt fucking people out trying to make a buck the easy way at? And you find them and you're like, boom, okay, already you're on my level. Like you're not
right.
Yeah, you already have a level of secrecy here. So I can manipulate you that much further, that much easier, and like, god damn, that's masterful. It's just so well done.
So he is active up until 96. Like that's the last time anybody really sees him. A lot of my info from this episode comes from an article that was written in 1987, when he was arrested after about 10 years where nobody had seen him. And at that time, he was doing kind of a similar scam to the watch scam, but he was doing it on jewelers. So he would again pose as a finance minister's assistant, and he would go into a jewelry store and he would say, the finance minister wants to get some jewelry for his son's wedding. And jewelry at an Indian wedding is like, that's a lot of gold, especially if it's a really rich person. They're giving a lot of gold to their son on their wedding day. So
I feel like
He's
every culture on Earth except for ours does weddings cool as shit, and we
yeah.
just I don't know if we talked about that before. We just somehow managed to just like screw the pooch on that one. Like everybody else is just fun as
Yeah, we got
shit.
like mason jars in a barn and everybody else is doing fucking awesome shit. But yeah, so he would pick out all these gold necklaces, take the shop owner to a bank in his car, and then pretty much the same scam. So that's what he got caught doing in the late 80s. Um, Throughout all of this time, particularly kind of at the later end of his criminal career, there are all of these other apocryphal stories that you'll see all of these if you Google search him. I can't find any truth to any of them or any like specific
Yeah,
names, but they're pretty fun. Like a really famous one is that he sold the Taj Mahal to a bunch of foreigners. So he
I've
would
heard of that.
Okay, yeah. So he
I
would the idea is he would do the scam where it would be somebody foreign so they wouldn't really understand that like you
yeah
can't do that. Kind of again playing on the ignorance of other people about
yeah
like India, in the same as like you're dealing with a corrupt person, that's somebody who's going to cut corners, a kind of ignorant foreigner, that's like a very easy person to manipulate because
yeah.
they're not having a lot of forethought, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, so he allegedly did it at least 3 times to different foreigners. He also sold the Parliament House to a foreigner at some point. Again, I can't find any actual evidence for
Yeah,
this happening, but like it speaks to this larger than life kind of story about this guy.
so we've talked about the one fine line lie cheat and steal like Bible sheet from when we first
Mhm.
started where I pitched it to Ethan and Donna and I wrote down all these like potential scams. I'm willing to I think the guy who sold the Taj Mahal to tourists is on that paper, and I
It's
did not know that
very
was this guy.
likely. Yeah, it's this guy.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so there's all these stories about him like that. Which again sort of speaks to this like myth about him as like a Robin Hood figure. So he is like beloved in his native village. Like people
Yeah.
will not hear anything bad about him. There
Yeah.
from this article where somebody said, quote, "He did not commit violence. He's not harmed anyone. He robbed only the rich. He was a twisted genius." Uh,
Yeah.
there are all these stories of him like coming back into town and everybody being like, "Dude, he's back."
Yes.
He would
That's
throw
so
like big
rad.
feasts for everybody. There's a
Yeah.
story about him having like a big party in the village and giving 100 rupees to every like poor villager that he saw during the
That's so fucking cool, man.
yeah.
Yeah, like just be that dude. We've talked about this before, but like cool crimes only, man. just do if you're gonna do crimes, make them cool. Be cool about it.
So yeah, like people he's sort of a folk hero. I found an article from 2011. I don't know if it ever actually happened, but in 2011 there was a plan to erect a statue of him in his hometown, and the cops were like, "Don't do that." He's
Oh man, I would love if a guy came to town and was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna build you a statue of your favorite local Narwaddle," and then that guy turned out to be a scam artist. Like
yeah.
that would be brilliant. I would love for that.
That would be beautiful. Yeah, so the last time anybody saw him was in 1996 when he was 84 years old. So yeah, he was born earlier than I said. So he was 84 in 96 and he had been arrested again for crimes. And people kind of felt like he was maybe slipping in old age. He
Yeah.
was getting a little clumsy. But despite being in a wheelchair, he escaped again. He
Yes. Yes.
escaped, he got out, and that was the last time anybody saw him. Was in 1996, in the summer of 96. At the time, people think he died because at the time that he escaped, he was being brought from jail to a hospital for treatment. He was not well, but he pieced out and nobody ever saw him again. He had a daughter who said that he died in 1996, but then his lawyer said he died in 2009. So
Whoa.
yeah,
That's a lot. That's a long time period too,
yeah,
man. That's crazy.
yeah.
If a dude escapes in a wheelchair, you're like, man, y'all, You know, everybody was like, "Oh, make the prison handicap accessible." And I fought it for years. You know, like, and I put all those fucking ramps in. What happens the next day? Just saying, you know,
Yeah.
that's rad.
So that's pretty much the story of Natwarlal. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I'm missing because he had like a storied career as a criminal. But yeah, he's sort of a like people have like a fondness for him. As I said, there's a couple movies based on
Yeah,
him, and I think a TV show as well in India. So he's sort of a yeah, like kind of a Robin Hood,
yeah.
uh, at least like kind of a chaotic good type of
Yeah.
guy.
I think humanity like loves that character. Like, you know, say like throughout
Totally.
history, we like, you know, we have like in America, you have like our Billy the Kid, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like he was a little scamp, he got out of places and he was like
Go to
always,
town doing hustles.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
I
it was
love
known as
it.
being beloved by the people. And you know, I think that is probably one of those noble deaths you can have, man. It's just to be known as that guy. You're the dude that swindled rich people, gave back to his boys. I can imagine really no higher praise. So that guy fucking rules.
Leave the prostitutes alone, but
Yeah, yeah,
it sounds like he learned his lesson early.
yeah,
So yeah, other than that, good guy club for sure. Good for
yeah,
him.
for sure. I would imagine if you're making a living, like, you know, like off hustling people and like that, that it would feel like not only a step down, but it would feel like doing grunt work again if you had to like physically harm people.
Yeah.
It would
And
feel like
it sounds like totally nonviolent his whole
yeah,
career. It
yeah,
doesn't sound
yeah.
like he ever physically harmed anybody.
Yeah, I can just see that just being like if you're like, man, I swindle railroad commissioners. I'm out here lugging a unconscious sex worker. Like I don't want to do this, you know?
That's
Like,
the thing is like I you know what this is? Because people talk about like white collar crime as like you know, like sort of paperwork, nonviolent. What no Warlol was doing was blue collar crime. It's like an
yeah,
honest day's work of crime,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
You're in the middle. You're manipulating the bureaucracy, the like
yeah,
the mid-level stuff. That
yeah,
is
yeah,
your work a day, honest living crime.
yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so much going back and forth from, you know, like flying in between these offices into outboxes and inboxes and stuff. And you just get a little taste, you get a little dabble in there. Yeah, hurt nobody. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it, man. Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for putting that story together for us. Do you have anything coming up you want to tell anybody about?
Um I'm gonna be in Mexico City. Fuck y'all. Bye.
Oh yeah, man. I got nothing to add. I'll be at the South Austin Comedy Show on the 23rd. It's ran by Brian Garr, who's like a fucking legendary Austin guy who I love a lot. And I'll also be at Shit's Golden, 11th anniversary of Shit's Golden, on the 1st of May at Spider House Ballroom. So come check us out. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Like I said, we do 2 episodes a month for free. And if you haven't already, go ahead and give us a like and a 5-star review. That really helps get the word out. Also, if you like what you heard, you want more content, we do have our Patreon. It's patreon.com/lie, cheat, and steal. You can sign up there, follow us on all the social medias, get access to the Discord. It's a good time. That being said, guys, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you out there. Be smart, be safe, but above all, don't get caught.
Don't get caught. See you next time.